racism, right? So, you're right. I don't know how money can address racism, but money can address economic inequality, right? Because let's just take an example, what has happened in the past few months with the COVID emergency and the injection of an incredible amount of what the bankers call liquidity into the financial system. So we had about $6 trillion of liquidity, that money that was created from the Treasury and from the Federal Reserve, that was put into the economy. Well, where did it go? Now, most people got $1,200 from, if they got anything at all, $1,200 a person from the government. That amounted to a few $100 billion. And then the rest of those $1 trillion went to the absolute upper echelon of society. And so we have a monetary system that creates and concentrates wealth into an incredibly small group of people. And I think that it's designed that way, because if we look at the arc of history, we see that banks and central banks have been this engine for creating a new aristocracy, right? That we kind of got rid of the concept of the old European aristocracy, where you had lords and ladies and serfs, but we've substituted that for a new aristocracy, the monetary aristocracy, that has come about from the artifice of central banking and the privilege of being able to create money and get it first. If I get money first, before it's printed, I can buy up assets. That creates inflation in the value of those assets, and then I can sell them to some other poor asshole who didn't get the money first. And I get free money, and I also get capital appreciation, and then everybody else in society has to buy those assets from me that I got essentially for free. And if you
for a second I thought you were talking about Ethereum. I lost my track.
If you can create truly free markets, I think that we can really unleash humanity's potential, and we can break this system of the new aristocracy that the banks have over all of us. And that's what I think the potential for Bitcoin has to make a better world, to make a freer world for everybody. And I want to see what Tone has to say, because he's been chatting in the troll box.
Because I'm frustrated with people in the troll box yelling at me to bring more diversity onto the show. Trust me, it's not for the lack of trying, and it's actually not easy. Look, I do my best, and I think anyone that knows me knows that. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about my past and where I grew up or how I've lived my life up to this point. But look, it's frustrating me, honestly, guys, when you accuse me of not trying to bring diversity on this YouTube channel. I do the best I can to do that, but I'm not going to sacrifice quality of content. So I do the best under the circumstances. Okay, let's get back to the topic at hand. And Bitcoin is the best silent protest you can make right now. And someone did point out in the chat, had everyone been using Bitcoin, this incident with George Floyd probably wouldn't have happened, because he wouldn't be able to send you a fake check or a fake cash or a fake transaction. Bitcoin is the best silent protest you can make. And I'm very confident that things will change in the next 10 to 20 years as Bitcoin continues to dominate basically the world of finance.
Just as an aside there, Tony, when you're talking about Bitcoin being the solution for stability and in the world and everything else, I don't know how you can say that in light of our monumental drop down to 8,500 from 10,000 the other day, and say that there's stability in the Bitcoin market. Come on, what happened there? What happened? Was that you? Was that you and you calling a sequential point, and you told everybody to sell? What happened there? I blame you.
Okay, so 8,500 is a little overranking it. It was more like 9,000 from 10,000, and also we had just gone up from that area to 10,000. So factoring in, so basically, if you took a 2-day nap, nothing has changed for you. But keep in mind.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you suggesting that if I take a 2-day nap, all of the riots and all of the protests will just go away?
No, Bitcoin price. Right? If you were away from the Bitcoin price for 2 days, the price for you hasn't changed. Look, you can look at it that way, but I can look at it another way. Like, for example, maybe not your apartment, maybe outside of that guitar, or maybe your microphone, like nothing else in your background would have really changed in price that much. If you take an item under $500 and the price of Bitcoin drops from 10,000 to 9,000, the price of that $500 item is not going to fluctuate all that much or under. Your cup of coffee did not change in price with a drop in Bitcoin from 10,000 to 9,000.
You know why? Because my cup of coffee costs US dollar fiat amount currency, not Bitcoin.
Well,
right?
we're
so
nowhere.
If we're going to talk about how Bitcoin can save race relations in the world and it's going to solve all the problems, maybe it's time for me to exit the conversation.
Look, you got me there. I'm not going to go that far, but look, it's a way to take some power from a state, and I'm a little happy. I'm happy about that.
Sure. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think Bitcoin will solve police violence? Bill, you?
No, but what it does, there is no more fundamental organizing feature of society than money. It is so close to the base layer of how we organize ourselves that it almost makes the state unnecessary in a lot of respects. Not police, not the traditional police aspect of the state's function, but think about, there's a tremendous number of social ills that if you can fix money, I think you can fix them, and then you can fix wealth inequality. You can I'm getting tired of talking. My brain is really, and my ability to articulate cogent thoughts is really starting to go way downhill.
It's tough. I know we've gone a panoply of very emotional topics, and you can go from the conservative.
But I think we could have a whole show about that. Now, this is maybe not the right one because it's a law review show. But there's tremendous arguments to be had, and if you want to talk about civil liberties, there's really great thinkers on this issue who have opined on Bitcoin's role in a people's movement of the liberation of society from the oligarchy that we have.
If I can, let me set that up. If we talk about Bitcoin being the source of economic freedom for people in a future society which disenfranchises government because, as you said, a solid monetary system somehow replaces government, then that would mean that Bitcoin would then have to actually be not just, as Tone has advocated for, as a store of value, but it now would actually have to operate as a daily currency through mass adoption and use as a currency through spendable environments, through merchant services, of which we know today it's not capable of doing based on block times, et cetera, unless you bring in Lightning Network and everything else. So if we're going to have a Bitcoin show about Bitcoin changing the world, we're going to have to also bring in people, not me and not Bill, but also people that are technological experts that can actually speak to the adaptability of Bitcoin to be able to do those things, not just real life stuff.
Yeah,
right?
And we can do that. And I'm planning to launch another show called Understanding Bitcoin, where I plan to talk about these things with the qualified people. Now, Jason, I agree with the first half of what you said, that Bitcoin will need to be a transactional currency in order to achieve that.
If it is going to achieve that. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. But I thought that you were now at the moment, I think that people's willingness to adapt it as a day-to-day currency is slightly ahead on the problem scale as the technological barrier for them to do so, because Lightning is functioning, though not as great as it will be in a year or two. Everything will come in time. However, to your other point from earlier, we are still long time away. So Bitcoin, I am expecting Bitcoin's technological problems not to be a barrier in the near future. And we can debate the concept of near future, whether it's years or a decade. Now, I do believe Bitcoin will be used as both store of value and medium of exchange, but we are probably more than a decade away, maybe even 2 decades, if not more, before Bitcoin has a chance to being a unit of account. That is a completely different barrier that would be very interesting based on, there will only be 21 million Bitcoin. How that will work, hopefully I'll be involved in those discussions in 10, but I'm not expecting even that discussion for at least 10 years. As far as Bitcoin being adopted for usage as a medium of exchange, I'm expecting that to be like on the scale of email usage, probably within 5 years. At least technologically. Doesn't mean people will use email. My dad didn't start using email until 5 years ago. So just because it's around doesn't mean you have to use it.
So, 6 years ago,